Welcome to video number 2 for Chapter 14, Forging the National Economy. The Emerald Isle moves west. Ireland was devastated in the mid-1840s. 2 million people died as a result of the potato famine, and tens of thousands fled the land of famine for the land of plenty in the Black Forties. Ireland's great export had been its population. They joined Jews and Africans as dispersed people, as discussed in The Makers of America, the Irish, in your textbook. Many swarmed into the seaboard cities, such as Boston and Philadelphia and New York. New York City became the largest Irish city in the world. The Irish did not receive the red carpet treatment, however. The friendless, famine Irish were forced to fend for themselves, so they created the Ancient Order of Hibernians, which was a semi-secret society founded in Ireland to fight the rapacious landlords, and it served in America as a benevolent society, ailing the downtrodden. They also helped to spawn the Molly Maguires, which was a shadowy Irish miners' union that rocked Philadelphia coal districts in the 1860s and the 1870s. Irish conditions in America tended to remain in low-skill occupations, and they gradually improved their lot, usually by acquiring modest amounts of property. The education of children was often cut short, and property ownership counted as a grand success. Politics attracted the Gaelic newcomers, and they gained control of powerful city machines, especially New York's Tammany Hall, and reaped patronage rewards. Patronage meaning jobs that were given to political supporters. Politicians tried to cultivate the Irish vote. Nearly 2 million arrived between 1830 and 1860, and politicians glimpsed political gold in those potential voters, especially in the politically potent state of New York. Because the Irish had a hatred of England, which remained strong, politicians won support with anti-British remarks. The German 48ers also came to the United States during this time period, and the influx of refugees from Germany between 1830 and 1860 was not any less spectacular than that from Ireland. 1.5 million Germans stepped onto American soil, as discussed in your textbook in The Makers of America, the Germans. The bulk were uprooted farmers. Some were liberal political refugees. Germany's loss, however, was America's gain. A man named Carl Schurz became a relentless foe of slavery and public corruption, but he came from Germany as an immigrant. The Germans possessed modest amounts of material goods, and most pushed to the lush lands of the Middle West, notably Wisconsin, and became farmers. They formed an influential body of voters that were wooed by politicians, but they were less potent politically than the Irish, since they were more widely scattered. The German influence in shaping American life was evident through examples like the Conestoga wagon, the Kentucky rifle, and the Christmas tree, which were all German contributions. They supported public schools, including kindergarten, which means children's garden. They promoted arts and music, and they were relentless enemies of slavery. Sometimes dubbed the damned Dutchmen, they were also regarded with suspicion. The Germans were seeking to preserve language and customs, and they settled in compact colonies which were aloof from surrounding communities. They were also accustomed to continental Sunday and made merry on Sunday. Their old world drinking habits further spurred advocates of temperance. This title of this painting is called Outward Bound, The Quiet Dublin, 1854, and was meant to reflect the thousands who fled the famine in Ireland by coming to America in the 1840s and the 1850s. This is a picture showing the St. Patrick's Day Parade in America in Union Square in 1870, showing the very heavily celebrated St. Patrick's Day Parade, which was celebrated more heavily in New York City than it was in Ireland itself. This is a political cartoon titled Crooked Voting, which is a nativist cartoon charging that Irish and German immigrants were stealing elections, and we'll discuss more of this political cartoon in our classroom discussion. There were many flare-ups of anti-foreignism during this time period. The influx of immigrants in the 1840s and 1850s inflamed prejudices of American nativists. The nativists feared that immigrants would outbreed, outvote, and overwhelm the native stock. They also took jobs from Native Americans. As Roman Catholics, both Irish and Germans were regarded by many old-line Americans as following a foreign church, because the majority of the immigrants that settled in the United States from England were Protestant. Roman Catholics were also on the move. To avoid Protestant indoctrination in public schools, Roman Catholics, like the Irish and the Germans, began in the 1840s to construct a separate Catholic educational system, which was expensive, but also revealed the strength of religious commitment. With the Irish and German influx, Catholics became the largest religious group in America, and in 1840 they ranked fifth behind Baptists, Methodists, Presbyterians, and Congregationalists. The Know Nothing Party was organized by nativists for political action during this time period, and they agitated for a rigid restriction on immigration and naturalization, and also agitated for laws that authorized deportation of alien paupers, paupers meaning poor people. It also promoted lurid literature of exposure, which much of it was pure fiction. There was occasional mass violence against Catholics in the form of burning churches and schools, and some were killed and wounded in days of fighting. Immigrants made the United States one of the most ethnically and racially diverse societies in the world. So with this diversity also comes differences in culture, so it's not surprising that cultural clashes occurred also. The American economy attracted immigrants, though, and ensured them a share of the wealth without jeopardizing the wealth of others. Immigrants during this time period helped fuel economic expansion, and the immigrants and the American economy both needed each other. The immigrants needed the American economy for jobs, and the American economy needed the immigrants in order to expand industrially, and together they helped to bring about the Industrial Revolution. And we'll discuss more about the Irish and German immigrants and the response of the nativists politically during this time period in our classroom discussions.